The stars burned cold and silent in the void between galaxies. Admiral stood alone on the observation deck of the Terran flagship Dawn of Earth. His hands were clasped behind his back as he watched the distant lights of alien ships moving along the border. The Empire had been testing their patience for months now. Small ships would cross into Terran space, scan a few planets, and then retreat before any response could arrive. It was a game to them, a way to show that humans were weak and afraid. Was neither weak nor afraid. He was patient, and patience, he knew, was often mistaken for weakness by those who did not understand war. His communication officer, a young woman named, approached him with careful steps. She held a tablet in her hands and her face showed concern. "Admiral, we have intercepted another transmission from the Emperor. He is broadcasting it on all channels. He wants everyone to hear." Turned slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes held something dangerous. "Play it." The holographic display flickered to life. A massive creature appeared before them. Emperor of the Empire was a being of terrible beauty. His skin was like polished obsidian, and his 4 eyes glowed with a deep purple light. He sat upon a throne made from the bones of conquered species, and his voice echoed with power and arrogance. "Humans of Terra," the Emperor began, his mouth twisting into what might have been a smile. "I have watched your kind for many cycles now. You hide behind your borders like frightened animals. You send warnings that you lack the strength to enforce. Your species is young, your technology is primitive, and your empire is small." Leaned forward on his throne. "They have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have crushed species far older and more powerful than yours. Your warnings mean nothing to us. Your threats are empty sounds made by empty creatures." The Emperor paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. "I give you one final chance. Open your borders to us. Allow our ships free passage through your territory. Give us access to your resources, your worlds, and your people. Do this, and you may continue to exist as servants of the Empire. Refuse, and we will take what we want by force. You have one standard week to respond." The transmission ended. Silence filled the observation deck. Looked at the Admiral with worried eyes. "Sir, our intelligence reports say they have gathered a massive fleet near our border. 300 warships at least, maybe more, if they attack." "They will attack," said quietly. "They do not make threats they do not intend to keep. They have decided that humanity is weak. They believe we will bow to them out of fear." "Will we respond to the Emperor's message?" Walked to the communications console. He entered his command codes with steady fingers. "Open a channel to the flagship, all frequencies. I want every being in this sector to hear what I am about to say." His fingers flew across her console. "Channel open, Admiral." Stood straight and tall. When he spoke, his voice was cold and clear. "Emperor of the Empire, I am Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet. I speak for all of humanity when I deliver this response to your demands." He paused for just a moment. "No." The single word hung in the air like a blade. "Humanity will not open its borders to you. We will not give you our resources. We will not become your servants. We will not bow and we will not bend. You call us weak because we prefer peace. You mistake our kindness for fear. This is a mistake that many species have made before you. None of them exist anymore." His eyes grew hard as stone. "I will make this very simple for you, Emperor. The boundaries of Terran space are marked clearly on every star chart in the galaxy. Cross those boundaries and you enter territory that belongs to humanity. We do not share our home. We do not negotiate with invaders. And we do not show mercy to those who threaten our children." His voice dropped lower, becoming almost a whisper that somehow carried across the stars. "If your ships enter Terran space, they will not leave. If your soldiers set foot on our worlds, they will never see their homes again. We have prepared for this day since we first reached the stars. We have built weapons you cannot imagine. We have trained warriors you cannot defeat. And we have a will to survive that burns brighter than any sun in your empire." leaned closer to the camera. "This is not a threat, Emperor. This is a promise. Cross our borders, and you will learn why the ancient races of this galaxy learned to fear the small blue world called Earth. You will learn why they whisper warnings about the humans to their children. You will learn why they call our space the graveyard of empires." He straightened once more. "You have been warned. Trespassing into Terran lands guarantees death. There will be no second warning. There will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. There will only be your complete and total destruction." The Admiral cut the transmission. For a long moment, no one on the observation deck spoke, then found her voice. "Admiral, do you think they will listen?" Turned back to the window and watched the distant stars. "No," he said softly. "They are too proud and too hungry. They will come. They will believe that our words are nothing but empty boasts from a frightened species. And when they come—" A small, cold smile crossed the Admiral's face. It was not a pleasant expression. It was the smile of a man who had seen terrible things and was prepared to do terrible things in return. "When they come, we will teach them why humanity has survived every challenge the universe has thrown at us. We will show them that the most dangerous creature in the galaxy is not the one with the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. The most dangerous creature is the one that will never, ever stop fighting." He placed his hand on the window, feeling the cold of space through the glass. "Send a message to all Terran stations and fleets. Tell them to prepare for war. They will cross our border within the week. When they do, I want every weapon ready and every soldier in position." "Yes, Admiral." As hurried away to carry out his orders, remained at the window. Somewhere out there, Emperor was probably laughing at the humans' response. He was probably mocking the small creatures who dared to defy his mighty empire. Let him laugh, thought. Let him mock and sneer and underestimate. They would learn the truth soon enough. Humanity had not survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the cold death of space by being weak. They had survived because they were stubborn, clever, and absolutely ruthless when protecting their own. The Emperor had been warned. Now the only thing left was to see if he was foolish enough to ignore that warning. Deep in his heart, Admiral already knew the answer. War was coming, and humanity was ready. Commander stood at the center of station, watching her screens with calm eyes. The station was small, barely more than a metal box floating in the darkness between stars. It sat right on the edge of Terran space, the first thing any invader would see when they crossed the border. To the station would look like nothing special, a simple outpost with minimal weapons and a crew of only 50 people. It was exactly what they expected from the humans: weak, small, easy to destroy. They had no idea what station really was. Checked her readings for the 100th time that day. The fleet had been gathering for 3 days now, just outside the border. 300 warships, each one massive and bristling with weapons. Scout ships had been moving back and forth, testing the boundary, waiting for the order to attack. "Commander," said her second officer, a quiet man named, "we are receiving reports from our long-range sensors. The fleet is moving into attack formation." "How long until they cross the border?" "Less than 1 hour." Nodded slowly. She felt no fear. She had been trained for this moment her entire life. Every person on station had been selected for their ability to stay calm under pressure. They knew what was coming. They knew what they had to do. "Send a final warning to the flagship," she ordered. "Standard message. Tell them that crossing into Terran space will result in their destruction." Hesitated. "Commander, they have ignored every warning we have sent. They will ignore this one too." "I know, but we will send it anyway. When this is over, no one will be able to say that we did not give them every chance to turn back." The message was sent. As expected, there was no response from the fleet. They continued their approach, their ships moving in perfect formation like a great wave of death rolling toward the shore. Watched them come. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother, who had cried when told her she was joining the defense fleet. Her father, who had served in the military himself and understood why she had to go. Her younger brother, who dreamed of joining her among the stars someday. She was fighting for them, for their safety, for their future. She would not fail them. "The fleet has crossed the border," announced. His voice was steady but could see the tension in his shoulders. "They are now in Terran space. Time to contact. 20 minutes until they reach weapons range of our station." Took a deep breath. "Initiate Protocol Crimson." The words seemed to echo through the station. Every crew member knew what Protocol Crimson meant. It was the beginning of humanity's true response to invasion. It was the moment when the mask of weakness would fall away, and they would see what humans really were. Deep within station, systems that had been sleeping for decades began to wake up. Power flowed through hidden circuits. Signals were sent to satellites and outposts scattered throughout the sector. And far away, in places they knew nothing about, ancient weapons began to stir. But none of that would be visible to the enemy. All they would see was a tiny station floating alone in space, seemingly helpless before their mighty fleet. On the flagship, Fleet Commander watched the human station with contempt. He was a veteran of many conquests, and he had never seen such a pathetic defense. One small station against 300 warships. The humans were either incredibly stupid or completely insane. "Should we destroy the station, Commander?" asked his weapons officer. Considered the question. The station was so small that destroying it would bring him no glory, but leaving it intact might be seen as weakness. "No," he decided. "We will capture it. I want prisoners. I want to bring human slaves back to the Emperor as a gift. Let them see that their people are nothing but animals to be collected." The fleet moved closer. The human station did not move. It did not fire. It simply sat there waiting. Back on station, watched the enemy approach. She could see the individual ships now, their hulls dark and threatening against the stars. They were beautiful in a terrible way, like predators closing in on prey. "Commander said they are sending boarding ships. They want to capture us alive." "Let them come." Looked at her with surprise. "Commander." Smiled slightly. "The longer they focus on us, the more time we give the others to prepare. Our job is not to fight. Our job is to be bait." "Bait for what?" "You will see soon enough." The boarding ships attached to station. Heard the sound of cutting tools working on the hull. In minutes, enemy soldiers would pour through the breaches, expecting to find frightened humans ready to surrender. She gathered her crew in the central chamber. 50 men and women, all of them calm, all of them ready. "We will not resist," she told them. "We will allow ourselves to be captured. We will answer their questions with lies and confusion. We will buy time for our people to spring the trap. And when the moment comes, we will do what must be done." No one argued. No one complained. They understood. The soldiers broke through the hull and flooded into the station. They were tall and strong, their black armor gleaming under the emergency lights. They pointed their weapons at the humans and screamed orders in their harsh language. Raised her hands in surrender. Her crew did the same. The soldiers looked confused. They had expected resistance. They had expected fear. Instead, they found humans who watched them with quiet, knowing eyes. "Take them to the flagship," the squad leader ordered. "The commander will want to question them." As was led away in chains, she passed a window that looked out into space. She could see the entire fleet spread out before her, 300 ships floating in the darkness like a swarm of insects. They had no idea that they were already dead. Far away, on worlds and stations hidden throughout Terran space, humanity's real defenders were preparing. They had walked into a trap that had been centuries in the making. Every sensor station was tracking their movements. Every weapons platform was calculating firing solutions. Every soldier was checking their equipment and saying quiet prayers. Admiral received the report that station had been captured. He nodded once, showing no emotion. "The trap is set," he said quietly. "Now we wait for them to move deeper into our territory. The further they come, the harder it will be for them to escape." "Sir," his aide asked, "what about Commander and her crew? They will be tortured for information." "Commander knows only what we wanted her to know. She has no real information to give them, and she knew the risks when she accepted this mission." Looked at the tactical display, watching the fleet move deeper into Terran space. They were heading toward the inner colonies now, confident that nothing could stop them. "May the ancestors watch over her," he murmured. "Her sacrifice will not be forgotten." On the flagship was brought before Commander. He towered over her, his 4 eyes studying her with cruel interest. "Such a small creature," he said. "Tell me, human, where are your ships? Where is your fleet?" Met his gaze without flinching. "What fleet?" Laughed. "You expect me to believe that your species has no warships, no defenses." "I expect nothing from you," replied calmly. "You asked a question, I answered it." The commander leaned close, his breath hot on her face. "I will break you, human. I will make you tell me everything." Smiled. It was a strange smile, peaceful and almost sad. "You can try," she said. "But by the time you learn anything useful, it will already be too late." Pulled back, uncertain. Something in the human's eyes disturbed him. She did not look like a prisoner. She looked like someone who knew a secret, a terrible, wonderful secret. He pushed the feeling aside. They were just humans. What could they possibly do against the might of the Empire? He would soon find out. Deep beneath the red surface of Mars, in tunnels that had been carved over 200 years ago, General stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed a different view of the fleet as it moved through Terran space. The enemy ships were spreading out now, confident that there was nothing to stop them. They had divided into smaller groups to attack multiple colonies at once. It was exactly what had been waiting for. "Status report," he commanded. His aide, a young officer named Jin, checked his tablet. "All defense platforms are online and ready. Fighter squadrons are in position throughout the sector. Ground forces have been evacuated from the outer colonies and relocated to secure bunkers. And the people? All civilian populations have been moved to the underground shelters. The cities on the surface are empty." Nodded with satisfaction. For years, Terran Command had prepared for this day. They had built secret bunkers on every colony. They had practiced evacuation drills until every citizen knew exactly where to go and what to do. When they arrived to conquer human worlds, they would find nothing but empty buildings and silent streets. "The enemy does not understand us," said quietly. "They see our cities and think they are targeting our hearts. They do not realize that humanity learned long ago not to keep all our eggs in one basket." Jin smiled at the old expression. "They are in for a surprise, General." "Indeed they are." In a hangar bay on the far side of Mars, Lieutenant climbed into the cockpit of her fighter. The ship was small and sleek, designed for speed and maneuverability rather than raw power. It was painted black, meant to blend into the darkness of space, invisible until it was too late. Had been a pilot for 10 years. She had flown in training exercises and border patrols, always wondering if she would ever face real combat. Now that moment had finally come, and she was surprised to find that she felt calm, almost peaceful. Her squadron leader, Captain Minyu, spoke through her headset. "All pilots, this is the moment we have trained for. They think they have caught us sleeping. They think we are afraid. Today we show them the truth." Powered up her engines. Around her, 100 other fighters did the same. The hangar bay filled with the hum of machinery and the glow of blue engine light. "Remember your training," Minyu continued. "Strike fast, strike hard, and disappear before they can respond. We are not here to fight a fair battle. We are here to hunt." The hangar doors opened, revealing the endless black of space. One by one, the fighters launched into the void, spreading out in all directions. They flew without running lights, without active sensors, silent and invisible as ghosts. Back on the flagship, Commander was growing frustrated. His interrogators had been working on the captured humans for hours, but they had learned nothing useful. The prisoners either knew nothing or were incredibly skilled at hiding information. "Worthless creatures," muttered. "Destroy them, they are of no value." "Wait," said his intelligence officer. "The female commander, the one called, she keeps saying something strange. She keeps saying the ground will swallow you. What does it mean?" Waved his hand dismissively. "Nonsense. The babbling of a broken mind. We have wasted enough time on these humans. Our fleet is approaching their colonies now. Soon we will have real prisoners to question." The intelligence officer nodded, but he could not shake the feeling that they were missing something important. Far below the fleet, hidden in the asteroid belt that circled the outer colonies, thousands of weapons platforms waited in silence. They looked like ordinary rocks, covered in dust and ice, tumbling slowly through space. But inside each one was a weapon of terrible power, designed to destroy ships many times larger than itself. General watched the enemy fleet move into position above the first colony world. The ships were spreading out, preparing to land troops on the surface. They had no idea that the planet below was empty. They had no idea that they were walking into a killing ground. "General," Jin said, "all platforms report ready. Fighters are in position. Ground batteries are powered up. We are waiting for your command." Took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine the fate of humanity. If their plan worked, they would destroy the invasion force and send a message to the galaxy that humans were not to be attacked. If it failed, millions would die, and their species might face extinction. There was no room for failure. "Activate the defense grid," he ordered. "All platforms, all stations, all weapons. Let them see what humanity has built in the darkness." Across Terran space, the trap was sprung. The asteroids that surrounded the fleet suddenly came alive. Hidden panels slid open, revealing the gleaming barrels of plasma cannons and missile launchers. Energy weapons that had been charging for decades fired for the first time, sending beams of pure destruction into the enemy ships. At the same time, the fighter squadrons emerged from hiding. They came from behind moons, from inside gas clouds, from the shadows of planets. They struck the fleet from every direction at once, their weapons tearing into the enemy shields before the aliens could even react. Lieutenant flew through the chaos, her hands steady on the controls. A cruiser filled her targeting display, its hull already damaged from the initial attack. She fired a spread of missiles and watched them impact against the enemy ship, ripping through armor and igniting the fuel cells within. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, was already moving on to her next target. "This is Fighter Wing 7, she reported. "Enemy cruiser destroyed, moving to engage the next target." All around her, the battle raged. Ships tried to form defensive formations, but the human attacks were coming from too many directions. Every time they turned to face one threat, another appeared behind them. On the flagship, Commander watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. Ships were exploding on every side. Distress signals filled the communication channels. His officers were shouting reports of casualties and damage, their voices filled with panic. "Where did they come from?" screamed. "Our sensors showed nothing. There were no ships, no weapons." "They were hidden, Commander," his tactical officer replied, his voice shaking. "Hidden in the asteroids and the planets everywhere. We did not see them because they did not want to be seen." Slammed his fist against his command chair. "This is impossible. Humans are primitive. They could not have built all this." But the evidence was all around him. The humans had built all this and more. They had prepared a trap that his fleet had walked straight into, and now his soldiers were dying by the thousands. "All ships retreat," ordered. Fall back to the border, we must escape this madness. But it was already too late for escape. General watched the fleet try to flee. He felt no joy, only a cold sense of duty. "Close the net," he ordered. "No one leaves Terran space alive." Behind the retreating ships, more human vessels appeared. These were not small fighters but massive battleships that had been hiding in the outer reaches of the system. They moved to block the escape route, their weapons already firing. The fleet was surrounded, trapped, doomed. Lieutenant flew past the burning remains of an enemy destroyer. Through her cockpit window, she could see escape pods launching from the damaged ships. For a moment, she felt something like pity for the enemy soldiers. They had come here expecting easy victory. Instead, they had found death. But then she remembered the worlds they had conquered, the species they had enslaved and destroyed, the countless innocent beings who had suffered under their rule. Her pity faded. They had chosen this path. They had ignored the warnings. They had invaded her home. Now they would pay the price. The battle continued through the long hours of the night. By the time the stars began to brighten with the distant light of the sun, the invasion fleet had been reduced to scattered wreckage drifting through space. 300 warships had entered Terran territory. None would leave. But General knew that the victory was not yet complete. There was still one more message to send, one final lesson to teach. The universe was watching, and humanity was about to show them all what happened to those who dared to threaten Earth. Captain Wu moved through the wreckage like a shark through dark water. His ship, the Silent Thunder, was a hunter-killer designed to track down and destroy enemy vessels. For the past 8 hours, he had been chasing the scattered remains of the fleet, ensuring that no ship escaped to carry word of what had happened here. "Captain," his sensor officer called out, "I am detecting a small group of ships hiding behind the fourth moon. 3 destroyers and what looks like a command vessel." Wu checked his tactical display. The ships were huddled together in the shadow of the moon, trying to hide from Terran sensors. They had powered down most of their systems, hopping to escape notice in the chaos of the battlefield. They had failed. "Signal the other hunter groups," Wu ordered. "We have found more prey." Within minutes, 5 Terran ships had surrounded the hiding vessels. They emerged from different directions, cutting off every possible escape route. The enemy ships tried to power up their engines, but it was too late. They were trapped. "This is Captain Wu of the Terran Defense Fleet," he broadcast to the enemy ships. "You are surrounded. Your weapons cannot harm us and your engines cannot outrun us. You have 2 choices. Surrender and be taken prisoner or fight and die. Choose now." For a long moment there was silence. Then the command vessel opened fire. Wu shook his head sadly. They never learn. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. The ships fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. One by one, they were torn apart by Terran weapons until only burning wreckage remained. Across the sector, similar scenes were playing out. Every pocket of resistance was found and destroyed. Every hiding ship was hunted down. The Terran forces moved with cold efficiency, showing no mercy and accepting no surrender. On the flagship, Commander watched his fleet die. His once mighty armada had been reduced to a handful of damaged ships, surrounded by enemies on all sides. His crew was in panic, some crying, others praying to gods that could not save them. "Commander," his communications officer said, his voice hollow with despair, "we are receiving a message from the human admiral." Felt his heart sink. He knew what was coming, but he had no choice except to face it. "Put it through." Admiral appeared on the screen. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Behind him could see the bridge of a massive battleship, its crew working efficiently at their stations. "Commander," said, his voice carrying no emotion, "your fleet is destroyed. Your soldiers are dead. Your invasion has failed. Do you wish to say anything before the end?" Struggled to find words. His pride demanded that he curse the humans, that he promise revenge, that he die with defiance on his lips. But looking at the destruction around him, he could not summon the energy for empty threats. How? He asked instead. How did you do this? Our intelligence said you were weak. Our scouts reported no fleet, no weapons. How did you hide all of this? His expression did not change. We did not hide it, Commander. We simply did not show it. There is a difference. But why? Why let us believe you were helpless? Because we wanted you to come, replied. We knew that they would never respect a show of strength. You would have seen our weapons as a challenge, a reason to build bigger fleets and attack with even more force. So we showed you weakness instead. We let you think we were prey. The Admiral leaned forward slightly. And you came. You walked right into our territory, confident that you would find easy victory. You spread your fleet across our space, making yourself vulnerable. You did exactly what we expected you to do. And now your empire has lost 300 ships and tens of thousands of soldiers because of your arrogance. Felt sick. They had been manipulated from the very beginning. Every decision they had made had been predicted and used against them. The humans had not been hiding their strength out of fear. They had been laying a trap. What happens now? Asked quietly. Now you die, said simply. You were warned. You ignored that warning. There can be no other outcome. Wait, cried. Surely we can negotiate. The Emperor will pay any price for my return. He will make peace. He will. The Emperor will do nothing, interrupted. Because the Emperor will never know what happened here. Your distress signals have been blocked. Your escape pods have been captured. No word of this battle will reach space. Felt cold terror creeping through his body. But someone will notice. The fleet was expected to return when it does not. When it does not return, continued, the Emperor will send scouts to find out what happened. Those scouts will disappear as well. Then he will send a larger force, and they too will vanish. Eventually, he will realize that something terrible is happening in Terran space. But by then, he will have lost so many ships that he will not be able to mount another invasion. The Admiral smiled. It was not a warm smile. This is how humanity fights, Commander. We do not seek glory or honor. We do not care about fair battles or noble victories. We care only about protecting our own. And we will do whatever is necessary to ensure our survival, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many enemies we must destroy. Had no response. He had thought of humans as primitive creatures, barely worth conquering. Now he realized that they were something far more dangerous. They were patient, they were ruthless, and they were absolutely committed to their own defense. One last thing, said. Before you die, I want you to understand something. We gave you every chance to turn back. We warned you clearly and honestly. You chose to ignore those warnings. Everything that has happened here is a direct result of your own decisions. Remember that as you face the end. The screen went dark. Stood alone on the bridge of his dying ship. Around him, his officers waited in silence, knowing that death was coming. It was our own fault, he said quietly. We brought this upon ourselves. No one disagreed. The Terran ships opened fire. The flagship's shields held for a few seconds before collapsing under the assault. Hull breaches spread across the vessel as weapons tore through metal and flesh. Commander stood at his post until the very end. He did not run. He did not hide. He simply waited, watching the destruction consume his ship until the flames reached the bridge and there was nothing left. On the silent thunder, Captain Wu watched the enemy flagship break apart. Target destroyed, his weapons officer reported. All enemy vessels have been eliminated. Wu nodded. Signal Admiral, the battle is over. The invasion has been completely defeated. But he knew that the Admiral would not be celebrating. There was still work to do. The galaxy was watching, and humanity needed to send a message that would echo through the stars for generations. Lieutenant landed her fighter in the hangar bay of the battleship Eternal Dawn. She was exhausted, her body aching from hours of combat. But when she climbed out of her cockpit, she found General waiting for her. "Lieutenant," the general said, "you performed well today. Your squadron destroyed more enemy ships than any other unit." "Thank you, General," replied. "I was just doing my duty." Nodded. "That is all any of us can do, but the duty is not yet complete. There is one more task before this day is over." "What task?" The general looked out the hangar window, toward the debris field that had once been the fleet. "We need to send a message," he said. "One survivor must return to the Empire. One voice must carry the story of what happened here. We will choose carefully, and we will make sure they understand exactly what to tell their emperor." Understood. The destruction of the fleet was not enough. They needed to know why it had happened. They needed to understand the consequences of threatening humanity. "I will help however I can, General," she said. Smiled slightly. "I know you will, Lieutenant, I know you will." The search began for a suitable messenger, someone who would carry humanity's final warning back to the heart of the Empire, someone who would make them understand that the universe had changed and that humans were no longer prey. They were predators. And predators did not forgive. They did not forget. They simply waited for the next enemy to make the same fatal mistake. The small scout ship drifted alone through the darkness of space. Its engines were damaged, barely functional. Its hull was with blast marks and torn metal. Inside, a single soldier sat at the controls, staring at the stars with empty eyes. His name was. He had been a junior officer on one of the destroyers in the invasion fleet. When his ship was destroyed, he had managed to reach an escape pod before the end. He had floated in the void for hours, watching the battle rage around him, until Terran soldiers had found him and pulled him from the wreckage. They had not killed him. Instead, they had brought him to the human admiral. The memory of that meeting would haunt for the rest of his life. Admiral had studied him with cold, knowing eyes. The Admiral had not threatened him. He had not tortured him or demanded information. He had simply spoken, his voice calm and steady. "You are being sent home," had said. "You are being given a ship, just enough fuel to reach space, and your life. In return, you will deliver a message to your emperor. Do you understand?" Had nodded, too afraid to speak. "Good, here is the message." The Admiral had handed him a small device. It contained a recording, a visual record of everything that had happened. The destruction of the fleet, the death of Commander, the burning wreckage of 300 warships drifting through Terran space. "Show this to your emperor," had continued. "Tell him what you saw. Tell him that every ship in your fleet was destroyed. Tell him that not a single soldier will return home except you. And tell him this." The Admiral had leaned close, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Tell him that we could have killed you too. We chose not to. We chose to send you back as a warning. If the Empire ever threatens Terran space again, we will not be so merciful. We will not stop with your fleet. We will come to your worlds. We will burn your cities. We will destroy everything you have built until there is nothing left but ash and memory." Had straightened, his expression cold and final. "The Empire was warned. You ignored that warning. This is what happens to those who trespass in Terran lands. Go home, little soldier, carry our message, and pray that your emperor is wise enough to listen." Now was flying through the stars, carrying that terrible message back to his people. The recording device sat beside him, heavy with the weight of death and destruction. He did not want to deliver it. He did not want to face the emperor and tell him that the great invasion had failed, but he had no choice. The journey took many days, had time to think about everything that had happened. He thought about the human warnings that his people had ignored. He thought about the arrogance of Commander and the confidence of the Emperor. They had been so certain that humans were weak. They had been so sure that victory would be easy. They had been wrong, terribly fatally wrong. When finally reached he was immediately taken to the Emperor's palace. Guards surrounded him, treating him like a criminal rather than a survivor. They did not understand. They could not know what he had seen. Emperor sat on his throne, his 4 eyes fixed on the broken soldier before him. The court was filled with nobles and generals, all waiting to hear news of the glorious conquest. "Where is Commander?" the emperor demanded. "Where is my fleet?" Fell to his knees. His body was shaking and tears ran down his face. "They are gone, my emperor, all of them destroyed." A gasp ran through the court. The emperor leaned forward, his eyes blazing with disbelief. "Impossible, 300 ships cannot be destroyed. You lie." "I do not lie, my emperor," held up the recording device with trembling hands. "The humans, they gave me this. They wanted you to see." The recording was played for all the court to witness. The nobles watched in horror as the images unfolded. The hidden weapons emerging from asteroids. The fighter squadrons striking from every direction. The ships exploding one after another. The final destruction of the flagship and the death of Commander. When it was over, the court was silent. The emperor sat frozen on his throne, his face twisted with shock and rage. "How," he whispered, "how did they do this?" Told him everything. The warnings that had been ignored, the trap that had been prepared, the cold efficiency of the human response, and the final message from Admiral. When he finished speaking, the emperor was quiet for a long time. The nobles waited, afraid to speak, afraid to move. Finally, rose from his throne. He walked to the great window that looked out over his capital city. Millions of lived there, going about their daily lives, unaware that their empire had just suffered its greatest defeat. "The humans," the emperor said slowly, "are more dangerous than we realized." No one disagreed. "We will not attack them again. We will seal our borders and strengthen our defenses. And we will tell our children the story of what happened here. We will teach them that there is a species in the galaxy that should never be challenged. A species that hides its strength behind a mask of weakness. A species that will destroy any enemy that threatens its home." He turned back to face his court. "The humans call their world Earth. Remember that name, fear that name, and never ever forget the lesson we learned today." Far across the galaxy on the blue world called Earth, Admiral stood in a quiet garden. The battle was over. The enemy was defeated. And yet he felt no joy, no celebration. Only a deep, weary sadness. Commander approached him. She had been rescued from the flagship before its destruction, battered but alive. The scars of her torture would fade with time, but the memories would remain forever. "Admiral," she said, "the Council has sent their congratulations. They say you saved humanity." Shook his head. "We all saved humanity. Every soldier, every pilot, every citizen who hid in the shelters and waited for the battle to end. We did this together. Do you think the will come again?" The Admiral looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a broken soldier was carrying their message to an enemy emperor. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning to fear the name Earth. "Perhaps," he said, "but not for a long time, and when they do, we will be ready." Stood beside him in silence. The night was peaceful, the stars bright and beautiful. It was hard to believe that so much death and destruction had occurred in those distant lights. "What happens now?" she asked. Smiled slightly. It was a tired smile, but there was warmth in it. "Now we rebuild. We strengthen our defenses. We continue to watch and wait. And we hope that the next species to test us will be wiser than the... And if they are not..." The Admiral's smile faded. "Then they will learn the same lesson. Terran space is not a place for conquest. It is not a place for glory or plunder. It is our home, and we will defend it with every weapon, every soldier, and every breath in our bodies." He turned to face, his eyes serious and steady. "We did not choose to be warriors. We did not seek out enemies or build our weapons for conquest. We built them because the universe is dangerous, and we wanted to survive. They forced us to use those weapons. Any species that follows them will face the same fate. Nodded, she understood. Humanity had never wanted war. They had always preferred peace, cooperation, trade. But when war came to them, they would fight with everything they had. And they would win. On the edge of Terran space, a new warning beacon was placed in the darkness. It broadcast a simple message in every language known to the galaxy. You are approaching Terran territory. These borders are clearly marked. Beyond this point lies the home of humanity. We welcome trade. We welcome diplomacy. We welcome friendship. The message paused, then continued in a colder tone. We do not welcome invasion. We do not welcome threats. We do not welcome those who would harm our children or take our worlds. If you cross this boundary with hostile intent, you will not return. Your ships will be destroyed. Your soldiers will perish. Your empire will receive no warning and no mercy. The beacon's light pulsed in the darkness, a tiny star marking the edge of human space. They were warned. They did not listen. Now they are gone. Let their fate serve as a lesson to all who would follow them. The message ended with words that would echo through the galaxy for centuries to come. Trespassing into Terran lands guarantees death. Enter at your own risk. And far away, in courts and councils across 1,000 worlds, alien leaders heard those words and believed them. Humanity had spoken. The galaxy was listening.